Oh, this was an interesting comment here, right? This is obviously somebody who did not like what we talk about here. On the video I'd done about the Kemites, who were just the ancient people who ruled the land that is called Egypt, what his response was, I'm here for the pseudo Afrocentric BS. Which, my first response to it is, I'm not offended by saying that I'm Afrocentric. There's nothing wrong with somebody who is descendant of Africans seeing the world through an Afrocentric lens. That's actually the most normal thing in the world. I think the problem that he's having is because maybe my thought process is different than his, that I'm wrong, and that he's not realizing that his own thought process by nature is probably Eurocentric or Asian centric, or whatever your upbringing, your background is. Isn't that just normal for all of us to see the world as our background tells us?
Well, I mean, why do you call us African Americans then?
Well, exactly.
So I guess my response to that is we should be proud of who we are.
Everybody.
Right? Period.
Yeah. Period.
Okay.
Period.
And so having a Afrocentric perspective on culture, let me just say something, and I can't take this away from him because he said so. I'll borrow that from him. But Infudishi said that culture is your medicine.
100%.
Okay. He is absolutely 100% right with that. So I use that. Culture is your medicine. So for the Asians, culture is their medicine.
Right. Absolutely.
Okay. For the people who are Hispanic, culture is their medicine.
Yes.
Right. And for us, it should be the exact same thing.
Exactly.
Okay. So I just spoke with someone yesterday who called me up and was talking about how to get back to culture.
Yes.
Okay. And the first thing I talked to him about was understanding our language, understanding our basic, fundamental, right, classical language. Mm-hmm. And what is our classical language? That is none other than the Medu Neter.
Yeah.
Okay. That's our classical language.
Right.
Okay. So I was explaining to him that once you understand that, right, then we can be able to get back to what we used to do because, of course, that is African language.
Right.
So what would be wrong with us studying our own language?
Right. I mean, it's, what I initially got from this is sometimes we get blinded by thinking that the way that we see the world is the way that the world has to be seen. We neglect the fact that there are lots of other different types of viewpoints. Sometimes when you expose yourself to other cultures, the first thing you kind of have to say is, let me see how they, let me be open and experience what their culture is, how they view things. And those changes, you kind of you should still be able to enjoy other people's cultures. It's like you read Greek. I can read Greek mythology, which I understand is written from the perspective of a Greek, and still appreciate what his culture is. I can read, mythology from China or Japan, and still appreciate that their point of the world or view on the world may not be the same as mine, but I can still appreciate what they did without having to compromise myself. It doesn't have that effect.
Exactly. I mean, and to that person's, I guess, perspective or what that person's trying to say, I guess maybe they're speaking from that perspective as far as what they're seeing, because it's like, now it's more to seem like a very strong Afrocentric perspective. But I can tell you right now,
yeah,
I love being Afrocentric perspective.
Yeah, so do I. See, that's what I'm saying. I'm not disturbed by that. I actually embrace that. That to me is great. It's been great. It's been. So
it's interesting that a person said that, but that's unfortunate.
Yeah. Well, the other thing about it is, in this video, I'm also pretty specific about talking about, there were different civilizations that rule that land. And when we talk about the Kemites, the reason I make a distinction, and for me it's always been, okay, we understand what Egypt was, when it came in, who had conquered at that time. And this was the best stuff going. This land right here in this Nile Valley. This was the best civilization. They had everything going on here. So lots of people invaded. They had trade. They had ample resources in the area. You had some natural barriers with the desert around you. So this was a very popular place that attracted the attention of the Persians invaded, the Hyksos. They were constantly defending this. So we understand that this land changed hands many times. And when that happened, the culture didn't necessarily stay there, but those monuments built in stone did. So now those monuments get attributed to different cultures, right? Like the culture that's there now, despite the fact that this culture was, without question, established by black Africans. Am I correct on that?
Yes.
Okay.